For those that haven't met me yet, my name is Tiger Todd. Tiger, yes, like the animal. I was a hairy baby. Get over it. But I will tell you that in college, I actually was crowned Miss Jewett 1983 at Whitman College. Miss Jewett was a competition they did every year where a varsity athlete, a dude, dressed up in drag, and competed with 29 other varsity athletes for the title. And I won. Now, we called I had a musical group, I had a big band back then. And you guys are really all quiet now, like I'm scaring you. This is so weird. We had a band. I had a band. So combo, we sang, old standards in the 40s, 50s, 60s. And but for this event, they all dressed in their tuxes like they normally did when we performed. I, however, was dressed in drag. So we called ourselves Tigris and the Euphrates. So if we get any more of these, princess jokes or dressing up in drag jokes, then we'll just know that I am at the top of that food chain. I don't know, I gave my tiara away somewhere. I had it at one point, but I gave it away to somebody. Anyway, today is a Q&A for Hero School, which means any question, any answer. It can be general, it can be specific, it can be totally unrelated. Totally unrelated. To start today, I know some of you guys filled out survey forms. Did you guys fill out survey forms of things you guys need to get done at Hero School? Have a show of hands. Anybody fill out a survey? Like, for example, who wanted to sign up to continue their education and get a scholarship with Larson Training Centers? Is anyone here did that? Great, okay. One of you. I've got a big list of 20 people, so we'll follow up with that. How many of you guys signed up for the Q&A today? Show of hands. Signed up, excellent. Thank you guys for showing. Also, how many of you signed up because you needed some sort of identification that was lost, stolen, or just you ran out of time on it? Ooh, back there. This is the choir then. Okay, great. Okay, great. All right, excellent. So I have a form to fill out. So we'll have probably Kim Possible, who runs actually Hero School Initiatives, have her fill out that need before you leave. And then what she'll do is schedule the date with the appropriate organization, if it's Nevada DMV. She has a friend there. So she'll schedule that day to actually get down there. You guys show up exactly at that time, and we'll just knock that out. Now, if you need a birth certificate from your actual state, it might take a little longer. We'll get that scheduled. If you don't have any other proof of ID, we'll get a notary to get that worked out. But we have a form, so just be honest with exactly what that first most important piece of ID is you need. We'll fill it out on the form, and then we'll just attack it. We'll try to get it attacked this week, if not completed. Got it? Got it. Good? Good. Over here. Certainly you have some questions about some things. Again, I want to open to any question. But I found some notes. I found some notes from a Q&A I did in 2009. Had about 50 guys, and what I used to do is I used to record things live. And when I was recording them, I have a friend that I went to high school with that was better at typing than me. Who is the typing leader, by the way, right now in this class?
Victoria.
Victoria? Who's Victoria? Oh, give it up for Victoria. Because, my Victoria is named Linda. She was the star in high school, and when I sucked, I was like, yeah, we had typewriters. So what I used to do, though, is I used to record all of our Hero Schools for the last 15 years. Well, I started sending them in probably 2008 to Linda, who I went to high school with, because she was like 100, 120 words a minute. She was just rapid fast, amazing. So I'd send all these things to her. Well, today, in prepping for a Q&A, trying to find like the top 5 questions that I've gotten from people wanting to embellish their careers, I found 18 pages that she did from a single Q&A. So it's possible we'll have 18 pages of text, that many words and answers. But what was interesting was the question, the first question. So I'm going to try to prime the pump for your questions. It was, how do you overcome fear? Fear of moving up, asking the right questions, introducing yourself to someone in a job opportunity, whatever these fears are. And it was asked by a guy at Catholic Charities who somehow endured 2 hours of Tiger Todd at a Hero School. So already, if you can endure 2 hours of someone like me, that means you could have endured 2 hours of Steve Jobs. You could endure somebody who would berate you, who would push every possible button to get some sort of reaction. Who's that chef? Gordon Ramsay. Right, yeah. You could endure Hell's Kitchen. So just the fact that you've made it through Hero School, you ought to check off the fact that you've got a pretty good courage level, even if your head's telling you don't. But here was the other. There were 3 things we discussed in this sphere. The third one, I guess really moved me because we talk about fear of being able to present ourselves, fear of being able to. Well, I'm going to read a little section from this so I can give you exactly what we talked about on the fear. And we'll start with which paragraph? It's important, especially now we're here at Larson, and Hero School is called Hero School for a reason. Why? Because trying to not just learn the lessons you might never get unless you had an entrepreneurial parent. I mean, imagine if you were the kid of somebody who started an industry, who maybe started, let's say it was your Steve Jobs kid. You probably would have gotten different lessons than the person who was the son or daughter of someone who worked at Albertsons. Not with me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right? What is Beyonce's kid, Jay-Z and Beyonce's kid's name?
Blue.
Oh, you guys know all these remote facts. That's just ridiculous. But do you think they're going to get some information and see some different habits through their parents than you and I ever got?
Absolutely.
Right. So Hero School was really designed around those types of lessons that we didn't ever have a chance to get. And I collected many of them from thousands of my clients when I had my technology company. I've collected them just by asking the right questions. I've collected them from 400 different philosophers and trying to find what always worked. Here you are, many of you students at Larson training centers, and so you're going to get a certain amount of training, but it's really hard after age 12 to learn in front of others. And one of the greatest fears that we have is practicing when we're not already great at something. When we practice and other people are watching, there's this fear of, oh my God, they're going to see me fumble. Right? Because we always want to put on our best face. Right? We're all great at something. Unfortunately, if we don't learn something new, we might not, be too effective the next year coming forward. And yet we have this fear, right, of getting in front of others and learning. And so one of the things I hope to happen, especially today at this Q&A, that I hope maybe began at Hero School, is that you just let go of that fear because you're working with other people who have the courage to actually learn something new until they master it. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of practicing and flubbing up. Make fun of yourself if that's what it takes. But again, practice until you get better. Right? How many of you guys started off typing at 4 words a minute and you're already at 20? Right? Look at this. Right? It's embarrassing to get started, though, and maybe that's what kept you from starting for 10 years. We don't want another 10 years to go by, so just put pause on that fear, okay? Everyone hold your hand out like this with your thumb, like you have remote control. Everyone who has a right arm in the room, please. Okay? Everyone, yeah, I don't know if you use your left, go with your right. Okay? And just press pause on that kind of fear, okay? Pause that, and just to believe that you won't be afraid to practice something new in front of other people. Right? We are certainly not the ones that are going to make fun of you stumbling, right? But you're not going to get great at something unless you get through it. And when you have your breakthrough, you'll master it, and hopefully you'll carry that message forward to the next people you're teaching. You're probably going to be instructors one day for Larson, whether it be volunteering or maybe in a hired position as this school expands. Again, you've got to let go of that fear. You're not in front of your friends or family who are judging you. You're in front of fellow people that are wanting to learn and wanting to not just survive this year, but really get up to a level of success for next year and the years beyond. Got it? Good? All right, then let's clap it out. All right, so now that it is a Q&A, who's got our questions? What are our questions?
What's it called, a Q&A?
What is a Q&A? Q&A is short for questions and answers. A Q&A at Hero School doesn't just mean we're going to supply the answers. The questions will start with you, but there are a lot of people in here that have answers we don't know. So it's a great way that all of us together can be like a mastermind group for whatever the question is that you have. That's the end of that answer. Next question, hand up is.
Yeah, this is way out left field, Tiger. But,
I'll go over here then.
About 5 months ago, I lost my wallet on 113 heading downtown area.
Okay.
Almost 4 months ago, I was pulled aside by one of the Metro cops. He came up to me and asked me what my name was. I said, obviously you know what it is because I've been in jail. Anyway, make a long story short, they found my wallet at the scene of a double homicide.
Oh, shit.
And I've been trying for 4 months to get my wallet away from the Metro police. Got all my credit cards, debit cards.
So Metro has your wallet
Yeah.
as evidence for a double homicide
Right.
that you didn't commit?
Exactly.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Apparently they found whoever had it in that apartment, the deceased, whatever, had found my wallet and were trying to run my cards or whatever.
Or whatever.
But anyway.
Whatever that
police
motive
have it,
is.
And they won't give it back to me.
Okay, so of this story, who had answers pop up in them during this? Show of hands. Who had some answers pop up as he was speaking? Keep your hands up for me. Okay. What came up for you?
Well, that he's not going to get his wallet back until they do an
That's it.
investigation.
Till they're done with that process. Okay. What else? What came up with you? Okay. So does it? What is that? Go down to DMV to get a new ID. Anything else come up?
I need all the other supplemental information.
Anything else come up? So here's a suggestion as an answer. Is it a problem to just draw a line in the sand and say, look, I am supporting the Metropolitan Police Department through the use of my wallet, okay? And so for me to move on, I need to go get started again, right? Right? Okay. So what ID do you currently have that was not in your wallet?
None whatsoever.
You have nothing. Do you have a bill from somewhere you live, from paying some sort of bill? No. Does anyone know you in Nevada?
Yeah, the police.
The police do. Okay, okay. So we could theoretically go to those very same people that contact you at the police, get them to say they know who you are, and then we take that and begin with Kim Possible. Kim, where are you? Oh, hi, Kim. Does everyone know Kim? Who doesn't know Kim? Gosh, those who know Kim should give her an applause. She's the one that works to get to the places, to get over these hurdles and these obstacles. So I'm just going to suggest to you, let's just get you fresh ID. Okay? And then you be a support of the police, and then maybe they'll pay you. Okay, sound good? Okay. Is that a satisfactory answer, this?
85%, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the wallet. How nice was the wallet? Do we need to get you a fresh wallet? Is that the other 15% really? Was it a surfer wallet? Was it leather? Come on, help me out.
That was a leather.
Leather? Okay, so we're going to look at the suit center of all the donations Kim's received for suit center, and we're going to try to find your replacement wallet. Sound good?
I've got one.
Oh, speaking of replacements, these two here worked so hard and got all their stuff stolen after a hero school and still were able to fight with nothing to get their Social Security cards replaced. And they lost their backpack, and I have brought for you the most amazing Samsonite backpack, complete with wheels, zipper, can become a backpack. Ooh, look, it's like a mana, right? A Wheel of Fortune. Reward for your heroics, right? Because you know this stuff. Everyone's going through something, right? Things are going to suck for a while, but you got to keep chipping away at that wall. Right? Okay, before I ask a question, I want to tell one quick story. So I had to retake one of my businesses in 2002. Didn't want to, right? I was already retired 7 years. Retake one of my businesses. The people that were running it were doing all kinds of horrible things that were contrary to our core values. Retook the business and then had to struggle paying all kinds of debts they'd incurred, IRS back taxes for stuff. All kinds of issues. Cell phone's gone berserk, if you've ever known that happen. What do you mean it's $7,000? Anyway, so I'm paying all these, and all of a sudden my attitude has changed from being super happy Tiger Todd, running around the country doing whatever I want, to why am I chained down having to struggle through this kind of crap? Right. And someone recommended to me, as they often do when you're going through something, they say, have you read this book? Oh, there's a book for you. Right. Here's The Purpose-Driven Life. Right. Here's this. Here, have you read this? Right. They're always trying to give you a book. Right. So the last thing you want to hear is read a book. Right. So someone told me to read The Road Less Traveled. Have you heard the book?
Yes.
Road Less Traveled was written, over 30 years ago by M. Scott Peck, and I think I picked up the 25-year anniversary edition during this time, so it was like 2002 or 2003, I don't know. It's been a while. Dr. M. Scott Peck, psychologist, wrote this book, The Road Less Traveled. Well, I bought the book, then I set it on my nightstand for the longest time. Then I finally opened the book to read it, and the first line of the book, life is difficult. I thought about that for a moment. And then I took out a pen. And then I remember writing in the new second line of the book, no shit. I felt better. This book has already helped me. But here was, I think, the point that Scott Peck was making and that got over in my head, is that not only is life difficult and living is more challenging than dying, right? Learning is more challenging than eroding, right? Getting stronger is more challenging than letting yourself become part of your sofa. That life is difficult for everybody, right? Raising better kids is tougher, is more challenging than not. And one of the things that Scott Peck makes the argument, just the first paragraph, is as soon as the awareness hits us that not only is life difficult, but it's supposed to be, it ceases being as difficult. I don't know how long you guys have lived in Vegas or a very hot climate, but people will yell and scream at their cars that overheat or at a tire that blows out in Nevada in summer. I was like, I can't believe I'm supposed to be somewhere, blah, blah. And they're yelling and screaming at a tire made of rubber that's touching asphalt nearly 168 degrees, and they're even surprised that it's melted, right? And so many of the things that we get upset about is just, it's because of our expectation that it shouldn't be that way. It's not the actual thing. It's the expectation it shouldn't be that way. Right? Well, I'm not getting paid for this. Well, look at all the things we do that we're not getting paid for. Look at all the things we've done for friends who took advantage of us that we didn't get paid for. So why would we treat our employers worse than our friends? Or our teachers worse than our family members that tried to keep us from succeeding? So this book taught me a lot, that we have to struggle. There's always going to be a struggle. Let's just make every step count for something, and that we're heading towards something. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So anyway, it got the attitude off, which made going through the stuff now a challenge instead of a, why am I doing this, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, I probably lost some hair. We do this! Our emotions, we start, if you don't think that your spiritual and emotional sides are connected to your bodies, right? 5,500 years ago in India, we had Ayurveda, right? The mind-body science, that your thoughts influence the molecules. It's actually what 1906, quantum mechanics, right? We had Max Planck just telling us that the things that are seen are actually made of stuff that's just energy. And we know this even though we end up going to a doctor and they think it's just this. But no, a lot of that is comprised of that. I mean, you can have bad emotions and cause ulcers. You can alter all kinds of things through these emotions. And so the last thing you want to do is be hurting yourself by dealing with expectations instead of just turning into a challenge. All right, I've said my piece. Next question. Yes?
You had mentioned about managing over little and a lot. And then you also had mentioned about or much is being given,
Much is required. Is there anyone can recap what he's asking?
But for the little
Okay, good, louder. What was he saying?
To whom much is given, much is required.
Yes, that was one parable, but I didn't write it. Jesus did.
Right.
Go ahead.
The rest of it was but the one that has little, even the little that he has will be taken. I wanted to know where it was.
Yes. Okay. You want to know where is it said the rich get richer and the poor get poor, or rather, to who he that hath shall more be given, to he that hath not, from him shall be taken even that which he has. It's actually in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 4, and it was Jesus's return back. Actually, it's interesting. How many guys were raised religious? Or okay, mostly okay. It's fascinating because I wasn't, but I started to read the book and started to walk through the things. You know, when you've been taught something before, like we were raised Ford or Chevy at age 6, right? We really didn't study those things because we already attached a belief to it. We already believed that Ford was better than Chevy or vice versa. And it's funny, the things we want to believe or don't believe later, we tend to study out more. And this I discovered when not being raised religious. I got the book and I started to study it out. And so this Mark chapter 4 was fascinating Because you see, Jesus, who it said in this New Testament, this story, whether historical or otherwise, it said that he was alone after he had been with 15,000 and his 70. So he had like this advanced team setting up, kind of like our awesome volunteer agents for Hero School on Saturday. Right? We have an advanced team to set up and do this stuff. We had teams working all last week and the week before to get clothes, sort clothes, print, write documents, all these kinds of things, right? So we had this advanced team, and he was delivering this message in a parallel or a metaphor. And it says that everyone took off, and then only those who wanted to know the truth returned to ask him what it really meant. And only then did he deliver that information. And I say this, I want to set this up in the context of when he wrote this, because so many of us just go through a class and we think we get the answer, instead of taking that extra effort to go up to an expert like Ed and say, you know what, I think it means this, but what do you get out of this, right? Be the one that really gets the second level of information in depth, okay? And all it is just you coming up afterward alone to ask that question, ask one more question. And so he says, to him that has, from him shall be taken even that which he has. Why? And all these other parables that he shared throughout the New Testament was that people who have tend to put their faith in what they have. Right? And they don't have the habit of taking what they have and using it as a seed for something else or something more. That's because the beginning of this parallel or parable in Mark chapter 4 was planting seeds. And he says everything in this kingdom or in this core value set from this company is compared to the planting of a seed. So when you get a class, it's a seed to what? Learn. To learn, and learning does what? Based on Hero School, remember? Character must change. It changes you into the next kind of person that now fits in that next kind of company, right? So it's a seed to your future self. But lots of people learn or they read the newspaper just to get information of something that already happened. There's no future. Right? So the people, he that has shall more be given. Why? Because if you have, that means you're using everything you have for the future. Plant as a seed. He that has not, from him shall be taken, meaning you're using other people's information that's already passed when it comes in the news, and it has no future value. Nod with me if that made some sort of sense to you. Okay, you can ask a subsequent question. Go ahead.
I'd like to know what Hero School is.
Hero School is, well, that's how you make heroes. It's a school that makes heroes. Okay, what is accounting school?
Or accounting, when you learn accounting.
Yeah, but it's a school that makes accountants. And this is the fundamental theme I'm trying to reintroduce to education in the United States, is this character change idea. Because people are getting degrees, but they're not changing through the material. They're accumulating facts, and then they're living at home until they're 40, because they haven't changed into the person that fits into a corporation or into some part of the country. You know, so Hero School basically is a formula, mathematical formula I found for human change in the 90s. Then we created a school around it, a curriculum that teaches, say, it could be 100 in this school or it could be 1,000 in this school. We have 1,000 different lessons on change, but the different parts of a person's character, right? Not just compassion or intellect, but what all different types and facets of strengths that we've gathered from movies. We've gathered them from different philosophies, from religion, from anyone in human history that learned that underlying level. Right. One of the underlying levels, I just gave you one from Jesus. How about the Greeks? The myth of Arrestees. Anyone familiar with that myth? So myths, I believe, are vehicles to carry truths. And the myth of Arrestees, it's a story of a Greek youth who's torn. We talked about the movies on Saturday. Our formula is based on a movie where you have to have a relatable character. You have to cause conflict and then accomplish the impossible. And if you don't cause conflict, if you just get everyone to agree, you never accomplish the impossible. You just do what you can do. So we had conflict and we endure these challenges because it produces the kind of person, like Happy Gilmore, who can get Grandma's house back. Got it? So in relatable characters, the Myth of Arrestees is a great movie, even it's about, 800 BC. It's a great movie because Orestes is torn between pleasing his family and doing what the government says a Greek youth has to do when someone has killed your dad. So let's say here's the Greek youth Arrestes. Please stand up, Arrestes. Would you? Sure. You're a Greek youth, so could you give me some Greek posing up here? Chipped out. Excellent. Perfect. See, you're already. Thank you so much. Good. Whew, look, he's breaking through the fear. This is so awesome. Okay, good. All right. So the myth of Arrestes is you have Arrestes whose mom is having an affair with Agamemnon, and they conspire to kill Orestes' dad, so the two can be together legally. So his mom literally kills his dad. And that'd be all right, because mom can do whatever she wants, except that he's a Greek youth who has to avenge the death of the father by killing the mother. That'd be all right if your buddy killed your dad, right? That's a little easier than killing your mom. So, right, he's torn. And many of the choices in this world that the Greeks understood, the first psychology, is that we're torn between what's right and what's necessary. And the Greeks understood that these inner conflicts are what would be fracturing our psyche, keeping us unable to move forward. Because we've got two conflicting ideas about the same thing. For those raised religious in the Christian, read the book of James, chapter 4. It says, "From whence come wars and fightings among us, come not hence of our own members which struggle." You've got two conflicting ideas about the same subject in your subconscious mind versus your conscious mind. So here's what Orestes does. He follows the law side, kills his mom, and now he's tormented by the Furies. You've heard of the Furies? Yes. The Furies, I mean, you've experienced Furies. Have you ever had just these nagging voices in your head that came from nowhere telling you you're a loser, you can't do this, or you're going to pay for this, or feel the shivers up your spine like somebody's out to get you? That's what the Greeks penned in their mythology as the Furies. And there were these little harpies sent by the gods to torment this boy for having broke a spiritual law in favor of a governmental law. Okay, follow, I'm almost done. But this is great. Well, there was a day that poor Orestes decided, I've suffered enough. I've suffered enough, and he made a decision. And let me just tell you this, just like getting in an elevator, until you push a button, you go nowhere. And so there's another great truth coming out of this myth, that you have to at least make a decision, I'm going to live and I'm going to make something out of this situation. And he does it. He pushes the button and he makes a decision. I've done suffering, so he's called a council of the gods. I don't know what floor that is if you get in the elevator, but okay, Mount Olympus, let's go. Top floor, penthouse. Well, he goes, and he goes there to present his case, and immediately we find out there's someone else with a law degree, besides Ed, and you find out that it's Apollo. Now, anyone remembering book movie Troy? The Oracle of Delphi is Apollo's mom, the voice of wisdom throughout history. Well, Apollo comes up, apparently has a law degree, and decides to be his advocate. And here's what he does. The lawyer steps in for Orestes to the gods, and he says, look, it wasn't even his fault, right? Look at you guys. If you were judging Orestes' decision, right, to avenge dad by killing mom, could you really judge him for that, right? It's a no-win situation, right? And yet he's suffering for having to make a decision in a no-win situation. And that's like life. All kinds of crap we suffer for we're not responsible for, but yeah. So anyway, Apollo steps up and says it wasn't even his fault. And at that moment, Orestes stands up and says, sit down, Apollo. It was my choice and my decision. It was me who killed my dad. And the gods, get this, the gods had never experienced to that point a human being, right, a subordinate being to godship, ever taking that level of responsibility. And it was so shocking to them. They didn't just get rid of the Furies. He didn't just win his case. The Furies were transformed into the Eumenides. So instead of having three ugly voices in your head, they had three voices of wisdom giving him strategies, right? Which way should I go? Should I buy this? Should I sell this? Should I invest in this? Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah. Now imagine the American Psychological Association, which is less than 100 years old. And now we have Greek mythology, which is at least 2,500 years old. And the way in which they delivered this information, the conclusion is they thought that the root to all mental illness was avoiding personal responsibility. But Orestes, as a single character, was able to define the fact that, you know what, you can take the blame and take responsibility, even for stuff that was no win or not your choice. Just take responsibility. And then the voices in your head don't condemn you. Not of me. Does it make sense to you? Huh. Interesting. That's why our second habit for Hero School, the 4 habits, is instead of blame, even if it was true, even if the person you're saying, well, I lost my job because so-and-so did that. Yeah, it's true, but you still lost your job. So I want you to take responsibility that there was something else you could have learned. Just take responsibility, even if it wasn't your fault. Just take responsibility. Avoid the theories talking in your head. All right, thank you for allowing me to ramble on that one for a little while. Next question. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to go back to what you said about your thoughts and emotions like affecting your physical well-being. I feel like they do more than that. They also, your thoughts and feelings like contribute to your own reality and other people's thoughts and feelings through like the collective unconscious. So the thoughts, like if you're having bad thoughts and putting yourself down all the time or thinking you can't do it or whatever you're trying to gain through that, then that's what your reality is going to be. And also the thoughts of the people you surround yourself with and what they think of you.
Okay, you're right. I'll take your chair. Why don't you sit here and just teach the rest of the class? No, you're absolutely right. I believe you're absolutely right, but there's some real life evidence we have to that. And I don't know if I don't want to get off track trying to partition your answer right now. And that sound tells us we're just about out of time. No, it's not true. We have plenty of time. All right. So that you know, I mean, if you guys, I would suggest, based on his answers, if you haven't changed your ringtone to something a little better, like, I mean, if yours is the police chasing you instead of, man, I feel like money, been attracted to me, it's your own fault. Sorry, anyway. All right, okay, all right, sorry. All right, so yes, so quantum mechanics is this idea of the universe when they could finally start to see or test or measure that there was something smaller than the particles than the last generation could see. What is, unfortunately, the first scientists thought what could be seen, was what was. Why? Because you're basing it on what you can see. What science has forgotten today is that everything is based on beliefs. That belief is higher than emotions, which is higher than rational thinking. Science is down here at rational thinking. That's why you can't convince someone who believes in something to change. And yet every scientist who had a breakthrough started with a belief that there was something more than they could measure. So that's like saying, does Denver exist? Show of hands. How many of you guys believe Denver exists? Great. Now, can you see it? Can you step outside and see it from here? Right. So you have to believe it exists, even if your own instruments can't tell you, can't hear it, can't taste it, can't smell it, can't see it. Right? So we have to have a certain amount of belief. Well, as scientists with beliefs, the ones that we read about, started to find ways to measure something more, they found out one great truth that kind of changed everything. And that is that matter and energy are always conserved. You know what that means?
Nope.
Okay. It's like the good mechanic who repairs a transmission. The bad mechanic repairing a transmission hands you your car and 8 additional screws and springs and stuff you didn't know where they went. Right? But if matter is always conserved, the good mechanic is the one who knows where everything goes and knows that if we started with 20 different pieces, we're going to get done with 20 different pieces, right? So they found this out with energy, like electricity, for example. So I was a math physics major scientist, and so one of the things that was so groundbreaking to me, because I was more into the philosophy of science than the actual doing the experiments, so it was fascinating to me that they knew that there had to be one finite unit of electricity. And I said, well, how could they know that? Because if there was more on any one side, the universe would collapse. Right? It's like a greater force on one side. Nothing could stay here. Right? So that concept alone tells us also that energy and matter are conserved, which means that while we're here today in 2014, the very molecules that the air you're breathing is comprised of, particles smaller than molecules, are the same ones breathed in by Leonardo da Vinci, by Jesus, right? By Muhammad, by the Buddha, or inhaling and exhaling the same stuff they did while they were on the earth. It's not all new stuff. And so we understand this law of the conservation of matter, energy. On the personal scale, though, I love what Ayurveda does. Have anyone studied Ayurveda? Anyone heard of Deepak Chopra? That's who first tipped me off to it in the 90s. So Ayurveda is this mind-body science about the actual human body versus the universe comprised of the same molecules. And the body is, there are 3 types in Ayurveda, but they're not just your body. So if you were reading if you want to get fit and you read the Arnold Schwarzenegger Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, right? Your personal trainer is going to assess you and say, are you endomorphic, ectomorphic, or mesomorph? Right? Well, before you supply a workout plan, right, or a food plan, you better know what the food does for your body type versus your body type, because it'll be different. Right? But Ayurveda goes like the Greeks. They understood the mind, how you thought, your thoughts affected how those molecules were arranged. So it was a mind-body type, and they separated them, instead of endomorph, ectomorph, or mesomorph, they separated them into Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And they said this. I'm going to give you 2 minutes on Vata, Pitta, Kapha. That's pretty cool. Okay, so Vata, Pitta, Kapha, I think of them as 3 types. Now, we actually have a form on this from Hero School, but you have to earn me sending you this form. Okay, that's a quick study guide to find out, a little quiz you can do to figure out which one you are. And then it tells you which foods to eat to balance, to stay in balance of what you are. And if you get too far an extreme out of balance, right, one force pushing you too far where you don't want to go, it shows you how to get back to where you want to be. But Vata, you know these people, right, because they're the hummingbird, right? Vatas can eat anything. Please stand up. And nothing sticks. But remember, it's a mind-body type. So it's because she's always thinking new thoughts. She's never hovering on the past. So the molecules, when they come to her, continue to move through her. Hence, she doesn't gain weight quickly, easily. Pitta is in the middle. Pittas are people who always have a purpose. You can see them by their start. So they're stockier because they hang on, they reflect on the past. They don't live through it emotionally, but they reflect on it, but they always have somewhere to go. You can see a Pitta person. Okay, how does a hummingbird fly? Ving, 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 ving. Okay, Pitta, boom, straight line, heading towards something. You find you can tell a Pitta when you see them because they're always heading towards something. They're not just walking around. They're not usually hanging out in a group. They get up to, they know exactly where they're heading, right? Pitta. Usually it's the entrepreneur, business owner, but not large corporate business owner. Then there's Kapha. And a Kapha is someone who is graceful, carries much more weight. And they carry weight on their body because they're also carrying the history of the past. They're the ones that would keep a church alive, right? And make sure the next generation learn the next precepts in that church, right? They're concerned about carrying a culture forward. Now keep in mind, out of balance, any one of them, right? The hummingbird never sits down and then runs out of energy and crashes, right? The Pitta goes toward anger, especially when time with the Pitta person is compressed. And then the Kapha doesn't ever want to get up and do anything, right? Because they want to stay in the past. They wish it was still 1925, right before the crash. They want the good old days, right? So they've narrowed it down to Vata, Pitta, Kapha. They also have determined exactly which foods, and they did most of this 5,500 years ago. But there's no use. You guys, have you ever been to the gym and you see someone on a treadmill, and they're there 2 years, haven't lost a pound, because they've not changed what they're thinking about. They're still thinking the past, expecting they're not eating anything. They're connected. These things are absolutely connected. All right, so you're absolutely right. So you want to teach class? Yeah, great. All right, thanks for that. Next question. You guys are afraid of asking a question. Show of hands. Yes.
I'm not afraid to ask.
Yes. Okay, great.
Would you say that the system is broken? Would you agree with that?
Which system?
The system as far as how the situation, the unemployment rate, undereducated adults, that whole system that Larson stands for and represents in that.
What a great question. Now, I'm not going to consult with my attorneys before I answer that live. Thank you for the video.
I'm not-
No, but I'll say it's pretty insightful of you to realize that although those sound like different systems, I discovered accidentally that they indeed are all connected. I would not say so much that they're broken systems as much as they're out of their time. See, there are things, I happen to have a number of people we've invested in businesses who are a generation older than me. So they'd be like my dad's age in the 1970s, and I'm a little kid in the 70s. I know I look much older, but I'm not. It's because I've worked with so many kids, my God, turns your hair white. Anyway, so I've met these guys, and they are, if they came into the downtown project, the first label you'd give them was they're misogynist, right? They have disrespect for women. When in fact, remember Hero School, our Hero School phrase from my, human change psychology, I did create a whole channel of psychology in the 90s, is that humans become what they learn. So I don't judge people for who they are, because what you are is what you learn. Did you want to learn that? Great, you are what you are. Do you want to be something different? Is it not working? Then learn something different, right? To me, that's so empowering. So I just recognize that all of these older dudes from the 70s were raised thinking that way. They were thinking, I don't know, so let's say we're contemporaries. These two dudes here, I'm going to walk over here with these guys. You guys remember the 70s?
Yeah.
At all? Yeah, okay, all right.
Barely.
Now, for those of you younger, this is going to be a huge education, okay? And again, systems out of time, out of place. In the 1970s, I'm a kid. Do you know what my parents taught me about cigarettes? Remember, cigarettes were social, they were huge, but there was one phrase every child learned about cigarettes, why adults smoked them. Calms nerves, right?
Go get a gallon of gas.
All right, now I'm going to get a little more specific. Every woman adult in the 70s that smoked told me so my parents told me they were bad, all these things. But when I asked them, why do you smoke? Remember, you're a kid, you ask anything? Well, every woman I asked, why you smoke, you know what they said? Well, I'll gain 20 pounds if I stop.
Okay.
I'll gain 20 pounds if I stop. So can you see how crazy it is? Now just imagine, we're grown in the 70s, our parents teach us that. We don't learn anything else for 20, 30 years, except maybe our business or something else. But in that category, that's all we know about cigarettes and women. So now, how shocked are we, and what is our judgment system? Talk about a broken system. What is our judgment system if we ever walk out in public and see a fat woman smoking? Right? It's like, how can that be? Right? All right, you just enjoy the moment with me, right? Right? And I want to venture to say to you, what I learned was, and I learned it really just, again, I followed my money to that park. 1,800 homeless people were lined up for the food I was paying for. I had no idea who or what homeless people were, but I still somehow knew humans become what they learn. And if that was a line of engineers instead of homeless people, that they learned how to be. And if there were no engineering jobs, that's why they're jobless. So if the homeless are this way, first I had to figure out what did they learn and what's missing from their education in order to change into what they need to change into to be employed in 1995. So I found those four things. I didn't realize until after we got the first 9,200 homeless off the streets, teaching the opposite four. In 1998, this is where I get such insight on the systems, that those same four habits were already learned by 7th graders at first junior high I spoke at here in Clark County. One I was zoned for when I was a kid. Von Tobel Middle School. I was at Von Tobel. They were the Tigers, so I think I went there because it was all ego. Anyway. But sure enough, they had the same four habits by 7th grade. Right now, if you had a baby in a stroller, can you say it's, oh, poor thing, I can't believe you learned all these things, so, right? We look at a baby in a stroller and we forget that by 7th grade, if someone is something, they've learned it. Now, who taught it? Right? What was the motivation system that encouraged them to continue to do it? Right? Found not if you're understanding my line of thinking. I'm just trying to give you my line of thinking. So I find these four habits in 7th grader, and now I'm trying to figure out who's teaching people how to be what turns out equals homelessness. So I realized that those four habits wouldn't be a problem if you worked in this industry. for example, union job building cars in Detroit in the early 1970s. You could have those exact 4 habits. But unfortunately, as the world changed, the system didn't keep up with it. And with more people becoming entrepreneurs and having to be self-standing and pay their own way, you got a bunch of people who'd already just learned how to wait for someone else to give it to them, how to wait for a list before they acted, and all the next employers were looking for someone to take initiative, and there was no one who'd ever learned initiative. Okay, nod with me to understand where I'm getting. So then when we found later on, as time went on, now the last intervention we did in Henderson, the kids had already learned the 4 habits by 2nd grade. So the only part of the system that I think is broken is the fact that the people in charge of education didn't listen in 1998 when I sent out the first warning. And I think it's because they think that education is always going to be the same too. So I don't believe in a broken system. I do think every one of the things you said are interrelated, but I think there has to be an awareness shift in the minds of the people in charge to say, look, as the world changes, so do the people. And that's what's really missing. That's what's really missing. What motivated your question, by the way?
Many things. I look at my own personal life of where I possibly went wrong. Well, I know where I went wrong and what led me to be in the situation that I am now. Some of it was completely out of my control. Some was. And being in this situation that I am, the experiences that I've had with case managers or just even the whole department, there's limited resources out there for people like myself, and you know, they can't give you what isn't out there. And I'm not a person that believes in handouts. I do believe in helping someone, helping somebody, just like you say, you don't give them a fish and teach them how to fish. I do believe in that, because then the man will feed himself. And
okay, so really, but you already agree though that what you need is to learn how to fish.
right.
But I'm just going to say that we need to reevaluate, each of us, right? You're a business owner, an entrepreneur, right here, right? If the world changes, I say each of us, it's almost now, I mean, this might be the first time you're hearing this class, but I wouldn't go 3 to 5 years without reevaluating what you know and whether or not it still applies. I had made that same mistake in the electronics business, because when I started, I was a math physics major in college. I was a music minor, opera singer, even married an opera singer. I'm so glad she left. Anyway, let's see what else happened. So I had all these things, so I went into the business. I was so advanced in the industry I was in, music and electronics, that I rode the advancement until eventually I was less advanced, because my habit wasn't learning, it was coming in as this rock star. And then I failed to recognize that every customer in the door, if they were buying from me, maybe knew something I didn't know. Right? Because I had a head of a casino. Do you think he doesn't know? You think he knows something? Do you think the head of a casino might know something we don't know? At least one thing, right? If you guys each own businesses that employ 100 people, and you meet someone who employs 1,000 people, just accept the fact they know something you don't know. Even if they don't have the same religion, even if they're horrible to their wives or husbands, you at least have to trust they know something you ought to learn if you want your business to grow. Nod with me. Okay. So that's, to me, the fundamental system break, is the lack of the education. I would say, though, that you're still thinking someone else should help you, and that's trained, and that's learned. And I'm saying this, no, you're shaking your head, but you're shaking your head to someone like me. And someone like me, who's never done drugs, never drunk, but at 8 years old got the #1 lesson. My dad didn't get a paycheck. So when we were out of milk, well, you owned a business. You don't get a paycheck. You have to pay your employees first by law. You don't get to pay yourself first. I know they say it in all the Inc. and all the Forbes and stuff like that. They say pay yourself first. Not if there's no money. You know, all you have left to do is to figure out a way to get creative with a good or a service. You got to go work for somebody and do something, provide some service, or sell some sort of product at a higher price than you were able to pay for it. So I didn't know. So when we were out of milk, the answer to me was, well, let's go get some. It wasn't that. No, it was, well, we're going to have to go sell something or provide a service for somebody. And so now I'm 8 years old, you're 8 years old. I get the lesson of then I have to go out and earn it. when I wanted to change states and go to a different high school, then I had to go earn my plane fare and how I was going to live. So I just walked up and down the streets of my neighborhood because of that 8-year-old lesson at 13. And I found people I could pull weeds for, and I sanded floors. I did anything I could, knowing that it was all up to me. Somewhere in your life, someone taught you someone else could help you. I was never taught anyone else could help me. And now this is very weird about America, even versus Europe, because Europe has this deep, rich history, thousands of years old, and we are this super young country, United States. And in Europe, well, here, it bugged me when I first started helping foster care kids about 12 years ago. And I found out the horrid statistic that if you were raised in foster care, either orphan or otherwise, 71% chance you're going to, 71% of foster kids in Nevada at that time were becoming homeless. And yet, if you read European history, 25 orphans became prime ministers, head of state, most powerful person in the country. So here, you might be taught, well, it's family's more important. Well, I wasn't taught that. My family, they were assholes. Right? I had a family side try to steal every one of my businesses. I raised myself since age 11, 12, 13. I mean, maybe saw my dad 5 to 10 times, between the time I was 18. My parents were always fighting. I couldn't trust either one. Then someone tells me, well, it's your family. So I bring someone in from the family. You know what they do? They steal. See, so remember, you learned that. I learned this. I'm not even saying run from your family, right? Or come to your family. You have to just be aware that we learned this, right? If you have a tendency toward it, we learned it. Now, we got to make it fit in today's world. Okay? So I want you to not judge anything from this moment forward, because what if you draw a line in the sand to build a new movie in the future? I like what the Apostle Paul said. He said, this one thing I know for sure. He says, I know a lot, but this one thing I definitely know for sure. You forget the past and press toward the mark, whatever that high calling is, right? And so that's why I say you decide now in the future over here what you want to do and what you want to be. And then you go find out what it takes to learn how to become that person to have this life and make the other irrelevant. So I don't stop judging yourself for it, but just draw the line in the sand. I just want you to be the awareness of, oh my God, I learned that. That's why it feels so real to me, because I learned that. Next question. Yes.
Can I get one of your psychology forms?
You can. Do you want it right now? Will you promise?
Sure.
Will you promise you won't read it while I'm talking? Because I'll hurt my feelings. Psychology. I got tired of all those big books I didn't read, so I found a company that got all the highlights in 4 pages. Must have learned to take those kinds of shortcuts. Yes.
On Saturday, you spoke about your money.
Yes.
And I really got the concept, but there's some things that you were saying that you get your money back in return for your time. Is that what you were saying?
Yes, for your time on the planet in exchange, earned money. The goal of it. I mean, what I tried to do on Saturday was equate. We talked about the fundamental part of a hero school 101, is about character change. Is about saying if you want this kind of life, change into the person that fits that life, right? If you guys, like ladies here on this back row, right? If you guys want to be in a certain movie, right, whichever movie, whoever the director is, you realize you have to fit the character they're looking for. And so Hero School tries to get you to do that. If you want to work at Anderson Dairy, if you want to work at Zappos, if you want, right? You'd have to be the character